So morning, everybody. Good morning. Can you guys all hear me? Yes. Yeah, I tend to be a loudmouth, so that works out rather than wearing two microphones. So this is a little different for me. I'm really used to getting up here and talking about bush wildlife and, of course, talking about the animals. And they wanted me to kind of talk more about me, which is extremely uncomfortable. So I required more animals to fill in. And if you don't like me, you'll like them. But to tell, I know a lot of you guys are new here. Who's ever been to bush wildlife before? Oh, wow. Okay, so I have to do a shameless plug because I got to raise a lot of money to keep the doors open. So Busch Wildlife Sanctuary is a nonprofit wildlife hospital and educational facility. We take in just under 6,000 wild animals every year that have been sick, injured, orphaned, otherwise in need of help. And our goal is to get them better and then to get them back out in the wild again. Most of the animals that we see come in because of humans. They've been hit by a car, attacked by somebody's pet, kept illegally as a pet, electrocuted, habitat loss, things of that nature. And so that's really where we recognize that what we do as a hospital is much more of a humanitarian effort, and it's a Band-Aid on a really big wound. And that's where education has to come in. And we are open to the public 6 days a week. We don't charge an admission fee, so anybody can come here anytime they like, 10 to 4:30, and we have about 200 permanently impaired animals that you can come and visit. And that's really, where the sanctuary aspect comes in. I would be just, it wouldn't be fair not to mention our founding director who started this place to be a sanctuary, not just for these animals, but for humans as well. And I have been here for 18 years now, in one capacity or another as a staff member, and I've seen it for myself. You'll notice there's memorial plaques and memorial benches. We had if you know wildlife, you know that balloons are not our favorite thing, but we had a little girl come here who just lost her mom and brought a balloon and asked if she could. She said, I don't want to release it because that hurts the animals, but can I just put it by your deer so they can watch it? Sure can. And that balloon sat there for like 8 months. It was like shriveled up, and I'm like, I can't take it down, But those to me are the things that really go like, wow, like my day-to-day job that sometimes I 100%, I think like all of us take for granted, is actually something that's really special, and that means something to others that maybe my brain has never even thought it represented. So, other stuff that they've asked me to talk about, and I apologize for fidgeting, I'm usually holding an alligator. So I fidget when I don't have one. They wanted you to know about how I got into this, and I don't know if it's that, I don't know, to me it seems normal, but others seem to be weirded out by it. I was 6 years old, start way back when, and my dad and I used to go every Saturday, kind of a tradition, go to this same little sandwich shop. And they opened a dog grooming place in the same plaza. And I said, oh, good, I can get a job. And I was 6 years old, and I'm 5 foot tall now, so you can imagine. I was like that little one back there when I was 6. And I walked in, and I said, good morning, I'd like a job. And they all started laughing. Oh, isn't she cute? Look, she wants a job, And I was like, what the hell? Excuse me, like rude. And I got upset, I started crying. We went over to the sandwich place, and my dad's like, oh my gosh, like this is it, she's not gonna shut up. And our local vet, who it's actually funny, because I grew up in Lantana, so if you guys are familiar, and this is 40 years ago in Lantana, so it's small, and the local vet, who was our vet, grew up in Ohio, where I think everybody comes down from, and she was in there, and it was the Ohio State-Michigan game.
Go Blue.
Oh, go Buckeyes. Wow, you guys invited back Miss Jenny. No, I'm just kidding. And I was sobbing and throwing a temper tantrum, and she came over and she goes, you gotta shut her up, Jean. Like, she's killing my game. Like, what are you doing? And he said, she wants a job. Tell her to come in next Saturday. She can work for me. No lie. Next Saturday morning at like 2 a.m., I'm standing in front of my parents' bed, like, is it time? I gotta get to work. And I stayed there till I was 22 years old. Every Saturday, every holiday, every summer, that is where they did end up finally paying me at one point. But what happened was, is as I got older, the animals that I had grown up with were passing on. And I was like crying all the time. And I'm like, I don't understand I can't do this anymore. And so I got a job at a bar, but the exact opposite, and during that time, though, I missed my animals. I missed doing it. I loved it. There was a small facility, if you guys are from around here for a long time, called Ocean Impact Foundation. Benji, I know, is well aware. And it was a small wildlife hospital. And I started volunteering there to get my animal fix. And ironically, one day, the afternoon baby feeder showed up drunk and got fired, and I got her job. And that's it. From there, I worked there for a while till I came over to Busch when Ocean Impact shut down. And I've been here 18 years, from the volunteer coordinator to the education director to the animal care director to the interim director. And then one day they're just like, here, just go ahead and run it. And I don't know if I'm the right person, but it's been 5 years and we're doing okay. So we'll just go with that. Speaking about creativity, this one I kind of struggled with when the lady said, okay, tell them how you're creative. And to me, I don't feel like I'm a creative person. And in the sense of I can't do artwork and I'm not a great writer and things like that, but I do think, and I have Kristen here, who's our operations director, one of my very best friends, who I drag along on all these missions with me. Wildlife just forces you to be creative. You are always, they will figure out any way to squeeze their big fat head out of the tiniest little hole, and then they're angry, and now you got to be creative and figure out how to get them out without getting attacked. We call it renegade medicine because people bring us animals that you can't treat like a dog or cat. You can't put a cast on a bobcat and think it's not going to try to chew its own leg off. So I think that's where our creativity comes from, is we're forced into it, more or less. But we have come up with some really interesting things that we've done here, not only for the benefit of our animals, but I hope for the benefit of our guests as well. We did bring some animals out. They are what's my inspiration and why I keep going, and some of the people I meet. Some people are just mean, and I think animal people tend to go towards animals because we're scared of humans. But the animals are what really keep me going, and watching people's reaction to those animals. Even the hardest of hearts, I feel like, can be impacted by the right animal, in my opinion. How can they not? Whether it be because they're tiny and helpless or they're big and majestic, there's just something that each of us can kind of connect to. And so, you don't need to listen to me ramble about me anymore. Who do you want to start with?
Up to you.
Let's start with her.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
It's all right, I got a key right here. I got to do something. I'm already fidgeting. Hey. Come on, Fraser. You guys are old enough. Her name is Fraser Crane. Thank you. Children do not laugh. They don't get the joke. She'll probably come to you. It's fine. We ask that you don't touch her.
Yes.
We're taking her. And if she gets to the back of the room, just stay where you are. Don't let her go past. Brett, you're in charge. She does not have a friend. So once everybody calms down a little bit, I'll be happy to tell you her story and kind of why I find her to be inspirational. All right. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to kind of keep talking about her. Feel free to take pictures. It's okay, sweetheart. She might go. She'll just wander. She'll just wander. So Fraser Crane, first thing I heard was, where's her mate? She does not, and Fraser's a girl. I'm sorry, we did not know when we named her. About 3 years later, she laid an egg, and we're like, oh, okay. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Fraser's a girl. But Fraser came to us from PGA National. If any of you guys are familiar or live over there or anything. Oh, look at the selfies with the bird. Crying out loud. Yeah, I've lost the room. So what had happened was PGA National, there's a great community of wildlife lovers in there, and that's why they live there. They love all the animals that they see. And Fraser was just a baby with her parents, and her parents were hit and killed by a car. The neighbors that were there kind of adopted Fraser. And I don't advocate this. It is illegal to feed. She's a sandhill crane. Sorry, I didn't even say that. It is illegal to feed sandhill cranes, but I can't go back and change time. So they started feeding her. They started kind of looking out for her and became her surrogate family. And it was fine for a while until some wild cranes came into the area. And Frasier went running over like a puppy dog, like, oh, hey, buds, what's up? And the cranes were like, whoa, you're not right. You don't act like a crane. You're not a baby anymore. You don't have a mate. And they basically beat Frasier to unconsciousness. You notice how her beak has that funky kind of curve to it, and it's malaligned. She was pretty much scalped. The neighbors, of course, collected her up and brought her here to Busch Wildlife. We were obviously able to rehabilitate her, but it was a group decision between the neighbors, Fish and Wildlife, ourselves. She probably wasn't going to have a great life in the wild. She doesn't necessarily recognize that she's a crane that we can tell. She kind of thinks she's a person. And so therefore, it was a group decision that she should stay in captivity. The joke around here is that Frasier has more frequent flyer miles on Delta than on her wings. She has been on David Letterman, Jay Leno, Good Morning America, the Today Show, CNN, ESPN. She's done movies with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. Yeah, she goes every year. We go up to Charleston, if there's wildlife people, the Southeastern Wildlife Expo, and she's kind of like the queen of the expo. And she goes to black tie galas and just wanders around, and it's like, it's a riot, you know. And she gets requests, like it's crazy. Why don't you come back up here? Yeah, let's before you make another round. Go.
How old is she?
She's got to be like a teenager now. She's probably like 13 or 14.
You want to race?
Sure, why not? Bye, Krish. How are we doing on time, Miss Jenny?
10 more minutes.
10 more minutes. Oh, I still got, okay, you can wait on 1 second on her stuff. Huh?
I'm not going to cut you off.
You're not going to cut me? Please, feel free. Well, no, so, I mean, with Frasier, you know, I really enjoy bringing Frasier. I think, personally, that animals draw a lot of misfits together. If you ask me, I see some heads kind of shaking a little bit. I could say for one, family. I mean, this woman has turned into family for me because we've been working together for 18 years. But if we were to meet at an event like this, we probably would never speak to each other. And it's true. We couldn't be more opposite. I love New York City, Fifth Avenue, fancy drinks. She's like, send me to the woods, please, with no shower. And I'm like, what? Like, I mean, granola. I was like, don't give me granola. Make me a cookie. Don't give me granola. You know, so I mean, like, we just would never be. And I've noticed that in the decades now that I've been in wildlife, it draws people together that normally you wouldn't gravitate to, and all of a sudden they become your family. And I think that can be, you have the same breed of dog as somebody. You're a crazy cat lady, and so is your next door neighbor. You love birding, whatever that might be. And what I find that Frasier, I hear, especially like from kids, and especially in today's day and age, you know, when we went to school, I'm just gonna group you all into my age bracket, so I apologize if you're younger, but if you got bullied at school, you went home and you hung out with your neighborhood friends, and it didn't stick with you. And that doesn't happen now. You know, people, you never get away from social media and emails and text messages. And I mean, even our own organization has been affected by children who've made rash decisions in the face of bullying. And Frasier, to tell her story and her case of bullying to children, and look, though, she's turned it around. I mean, she was, and of course, they're like, who's David Letterman? Who's Frasier? I'm like, oh, too old. You know, but to say she's done movies and she travels and she gets on stages and we show them, and they're just like, that's so cool. You know, and I hope somewhere in there's a little inspiration that you can be a little odd and you can be really, really cool being odd. So, do you have a question? No, yeah, she just turned around. I'm sorry, I can't. You look like you were going to ask a question. Okay. Does anybody have a question? Or well, oh, all right, stick to the plan. Sorry. Like I said, I go off script, so my apologies there. One of the other things they asked me was kind of like can't remember how it was phrased. Now I should have brought my little notepad out with me, but it was kind of like, you know, like a takeaway. For me, I kind of have a rule of 5. Is this going to matter in 5 minutes? Is it going to matter in 5 hours? 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months. And I feel like, especially in the field that we're in, you gotta let stuff go really, really fast because there's too many things coming at you. I mean, some days we get 70 new animals in. I've only got this much time to focus on this. I got to get to the next one, to the next one, to the next. You know what I mean? So that's something, and I'm still working on getting my husband to realize it, especially when he's mad at me. I'm like, honey, is it going to matter in 5 minutes? Yes. I'm like, 5 hours? Yeah. I'm like, oh shit. Sorry. But you know, that's kind of my takeaway. We are in, when you're dealing with wildlife, you know, it might be all day just sitting at your computer, and the next thing I know, there's an alligator in the parking lot that got away from somebody, and it's like, yes. Fun. You know, that's the good stuff. So you just have to kind of let things go and kind of move on with it. And I think that's the best thing I can try to offer as like an advice takeaway. If that's what I was being asked to do. You want to do Hanny? All right. This one's not going to walk around. Kristen's going to bring her out and keep her up on stage for you guys. Again, didn't know she was a girl when I named her. Okay? It's totally my fault. But if you really ask kind of what animal, I hate to play favorites because just like children, one day one is great and the next day they're a devil. Same thing with animals, you know. But if I have to do a top 10, top 5 even, she'd have to be in it. And I actually saw a couple of people like on their badge say like, I like the bald eagle. And I didn't bring her out, you know, select her to be, you know, majestic or fancy or whatever. She truly is an inspiration to me. And I don't think her story's done being told. And I'm hoping in a room of creatives, maybe someone can help me with this. Hint, hint, wink, wink. We have no money for it though, so it's on you. No, I'm just kidding. So her name is Hannibal. I know. It's embarrassing now, but.
She knows too.
Hannibal is American bald eagle. Hannibal should not be here today. I mean, 100%. There were so many times that this bird should not have survived and should not have thrived. And that to me is just incredibly empowering and something that I look forward to. You guys might have seen that we're building a new sanctuary, which is insane. That we're doing it, but it's a home of our own. We rent this property. We now bought our own, so thank goodness we'll have it, you know, in perpetuity, or you know, God willing. But I have to remind myself sometimes, like, what the hell are we doing? Like, should we just throw the towel in on this? We're trying to raise $20 million in a matter of a couple years and move 200 animals and all, you know, and she's definitely one of the animals that I'm like, no, but where would Hannibal go? I know it sounds ridiculous, but Hannibal came in 2015. And at the time, it was the youngest eaglet I had ever dealt with in my career. Basically around 6 weeks old, give or take, and emaciated, dehydrated, covered in scabs. And I'm like, yeah, you. And what had happened was, you know, a lot of the eagle nests around here, Audubon Society has what's called Eagle Watch. And they go out and they watch these nests for babies and what's going on, and they monitor them and they report back the data. And so this volunteer had been watching this nest and had reported that mom and dad had 2 eaglets in the nest. Those 2 eaglets got big enough and they had fledged, left the nest. That should have been end of story, research done, case closed, walk away, bye. This volunteer, I wonder if they're still hanging out in the area. I want to go check on them. Goes back a few days later, doesn't see the adults, doesn't see the babies, but finds that there was a 3rd eaglet. And she was laying on the ground, basically flat out. So right off the bat, her family, and some of this is theory, guys. I'm adding my own spin, but what I think was happening was she was the weakest. The parents had decided they had 2 stronger babies they were going to focus on. And if she passed, I mean, this is how wildlife works, you know? So the fact that she survived on whatever scraps fell in the bottom of the nest is number 1, amazing. Number 2, after they left, why did she jump out of the nest? What gave that courage to finally stand up and jump out of the nest? I mean, a lot of animals would never do that. They would just, food source is gone, and starve, quite frankly. Why did that volunteer go back? That's again, I'm like, okay, this is incredible. She came to us. We started on fluids. We started treating the parasites she had. I could tell that something was wrong with both of her eyes. So I took her over to our ophthalmologist. I won't say her name because you're going to go, wow, what a bad vet. She's the most amazing vet ever. And she goes, I'm pretty sure this bird is completely blind. You just need to go ahead and put her down. You're not, and I'm like, okay, And I brought her back here, and I was like, you know what? You deserve just like a feast. If I have to put you down, so be it, but you deserve a feast. And I got out, sorry, we have chicks that we feed, and they come to us frozen, and we thaw them, okay? No harm was done to the chick here at the sanctuary. And I got out the chick, and I went to toss it, and she grabbed it out of my hand. And I'm like, wait a minute. If you can't see, how the heck did you just grab that away from me? So I was like, let's just play this out a little more. So remember, that was April Fool's Day. My birthday is April 11th. She was doing great. She was eating on her own. Yeah, her eyes were messed up, but she was surviving, she was thriving, she was doing well. Came in on April 11th, and on her left side, which you can see now, I'll get to how we ended up where she is now. And if your arm gets tired, you can put her away.
For the minute.
Okay. She gets heavy. She's so good, but it's just that static motion. She only weighs about 8 pounds, believe it or not. But, she's always readjusting her weight and everything. So anyway, I came in, and she had this lump on the left side on her lower eyelid. I panicked. I rushed her straight over to our vet, and I was like, oh my gosh. And she's like, oh, I'll bet you it's like an abscess that's ruptured. So we did surgery, and we removed it. Between April 11th and April 23rd, if anybody wants to see pictures, I can bring them. I wasn't putting them on a slide for you. They're pretty graphic. It had literally grown to take up the whole side of her face. Came right back that fast, and within 12 days, her whole face was this big tumor, quite frankly. And so went back over, we removed it again, reconstructed the whole side of her face, and it came back that at just about 8 weeks old, she had squamous cell carcinoma. In my world, and I know we have other wildlife people here, I had never heard of an eagle at such a young age that had cancer. And we got all the margins, thankfully. Unfortunately, this type of cancer in birds has an 85% recurrence rate. We knew that left eye was non-functional. And the right eye had an ulcer too that has left like some spots where her vision is very bad. Up until 2017, the left eye was doing okay, and then it started giving her lots of pain management issues. It was having swelling, and so we decided to enucleate or remove that eye. And since then, it's been so much better on her. She was having nasal discharge and things like that, which she doesn't have anymore. And since then, she has been in total remission. So. Yes, wrap it up. Just tell me to wrap it up. So anyway, last thing about Hannibal is I feel like she has a great story to tell, especially for children who are battling disease or who are just battling through something that's really tough and that you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so that's why she really inspires me, because I feel like somewhere she's done. She said, I'm wrapping it up. Really? So dramatic. So dramatic. So for her, I feel like somewhere there's a children's book, there's a YouTube show, there's something that just spreads a little bit of hope and a little bit of joy, especially to a demographic that might not be able to understand that there's life after some bad stuff happens. So. That's what I have to say. All right, Miss Jenny.
It's 9:40, so we have time maybe for take 2 questions. Or 3. Yeah.
Hit me. I'm informal. Go for it.
So what happened to Fraser's egg?
Fraser's eggs are not fertile because Fraser refuses to have a mate. So just like chickens, they lay eggs that are infertile. Yep. So, yeah. And what'll happen is Fraser will sit on the egg for a little while, and then she's like, yeah, it sucks, and then she'll throw it at us. And we're like, oh, thanks. Okay, we'll get rid of that for you.
Throw it.
Huh? Oh, she'll kick it. Oh. She will kick it at you. She's decided recently that Kristen's her mate now. And it's funny, like, when we go to get her, she bows down. She's like, hi. And then when, obviously, she doesn't reciprocate, then she tries to attack her. So, yes, ma'am.
This isn't a question, but I think it's very creative to relate those stories of survival.
Aww. Thank you.
Very creative.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, because I don't think of it that way, but thank you. Yeah.
How can everybody here best help you guys?
Money.
Capital.
No, I mean, there's all different sorts of ways, you know. I'm sorry, my brain is just such in like campaign mode right now. And I also do the raffle tickets. Like I said, I'll go with whoever wins to go feed the bear. Obviously, capital campaign is important to us. We have wish lists, you know, Amazon Smile that donates back. We have an Amazon wish list. If you have connections just with people that you think could help us spread the word, you know, anything like that. I mean, and we've had some really, I mean, I'll be honest with you, when this first came to me, I was like, okay, this is a kind of crazy thing that I don't normally do. I think it's been wonderful so far this morning. And we've obviously introduced a lot of new people to the sanctuary. So if you have other things like this, you know, even if you're like, well, this is kind of weird, just bring it up. I mean, at this point, I don't feel like people can weird me out too much. So I dare you. Yes, ma'am.
How can we people be better neighbors to the wildlife communities around us?
Oh, love it. Don't feed it. Even if it's cute and sweet and looking for food, don't make it dependent on people. Being aware of your surroundings. You know, if you notice animals in need, you know, reach out. Technology is fantastic. Like, I don't know if this animal needs help or not. This bunny, you know what I mean? Send us a video. We can look at it. Leaving some native space. You know, a lot of times we come in and we build our homes and we make these beautiful landscape yards and there's nowhere for wildlife to be in that community. So learning a little bit about our native plants, learning a little bit about some native plantings that you can put around that will help sustain populations of small animals, bunnies, birds, whatever it might be. Just any of that sort of stuff. You know, is a great resource. We have a wonderful partnership with Palm Beach County Environmental Resource Management where we have actually adopted some of their natural areas. And it's great because we can actually do education out there, but we can also release out there. So like when we have animals for release that have come from, let's say, a densely populated area, it was a hawk and it got hit by a car because it was in a neighborhood. I'll reach out to them and say, okay, what natural area can sustain adding a red-shouldered hawk to it? And we'll go out together and we'll release it out there. And so, but having those areas, yeah, and just learning, it's great. We do nature walks and stuff out there. So yeah, getting involved and stuff like that, if you enjoy it. Yes, sorry, I'm going over 2 questions. Go ahead.
Are you guys seeking volunteers?
Always. Our volunteers are ages 15 and up is our adult program. Then we have junior natches, who's 9 to 14-year-olds. And then we have our minis, which are our 5 to 8-year-olds. Yes.
Last question. Sorry.
Okay, you had your hand up, ma'am.
You know that was the last question.
Oh, wait, no, I already told. Go, quick.
Quick.
So you said that you take in about 6,000 animals a year. I think you said there's 200 here.
Yes.
How long do most of them stay?
It can be anywhere from a couple hours to months on end. It really depends. Majority of them, probably about 2 months. You know, babies, a lot of them are right around 2-3 months. A traumatic injury, 2-3 months. And then you got like the bird that just hit a window and has a headache a day. And then you have a gopher tortoise with a bad cracked shell, it's a year. So, but a couple months is general. All right, I'm not gonna take any more. I'll be around though, so come, I'm happy to, and Chris will be happy, she can answer just like I can. So, and then I'll just wait for you guys to tell me who the winner